I'm excited to introduce our next group of speakers, who we are calling the Caretakers of the Plant. So today we're very excited to be joined by Tina Gordon. Tina is the founder and owner of Moon Made Farms, a 40-acre Emerald Triangle cannabis farm in southern Humboldt County. As a former rock drummer, Tina now thrives as an active cannabis farmer and advocate, serving on the boards of the International Cannabis Farmers Association and the Sun and Earth. She's Sun and Earth certified and provides flowers to the cannabis distributor Flocana. Tina's goal is to help improve the quality of life for all living things through cannabis, and she cultivates her plants in alignment with the lunar calendar using regenerative cultivation methods. Tina, thank you so much for being here. We also have Lindsey Renner, founder of Native Humboldt Farms. If you all were here this morning for our opening ceremonies, Lindsey gave an absolutely beautiful land blessing in her native language to start our day of programming, and we're happy to welcome her back to the stage. She's also a cannabis farmer in Humboldt County, where she cultivates cannabis on the land that her Wailaki tribe ancestors once inhabited. She's also a licensed manufacturer, creating beautiful oils, edibles, and body care products with other high quality plant ingredients. We also have Christopher Leavitt, the Chief Scientific Officer for Node Labs. So Node Labs is a plant tissue culture micropropagation nursery. And Chris and his team propagate high value plants in large quantities that are pest-free and pesticide-free, using cutting-edge plant tissue culture techniques and technology. Node Labs is committed to making plant tissue culture more ubiquitous in the US, and they provide high-quality clones and deliver them to farmers across the state. Last but certainly not least, we have Bertrand Vick, Ph.D. from RevGenomics. Bert is an Oakland-based plant scientist focused on cannabis breeding and developing rare cannabinoids such as THCV, CBG, CBC, CBDV, all of these letters. So RevGenomics is another Y Combinator cannabis startup that essentially licenses strains to cultivators. They've also published a genetic marker data set to facilitate innovation in breeding efforts and the creation of new cultivars for this amazing plant. So this is kind of more of our casual conversation. There's no moderator for this conversation, just for caretakers of the plant, breaking it down together and sharing a joint. So why don't we pass the mic to Tina, if you want to get this conversation started. We have just a few minutes before 4:20, so let's get into it.
Thanks, Aria and David and Meadow, and it's wonderful to see all these familiar faces and cultivators and everyone across the Meadow community. It's a pleasure to be here, especially right now, because as you all know, California's on fire. And we were just evacuated a couple of weeks ago. We've been back for about a week now. And when I left, I didn't know if I would ever be able to return. And so I'm sitting in a garden right now at Moon Made Farms. We're in the heart of the Emerald Triangle, the southeast corner of Humboldt County. And I'm surrounded by sapphire Sioux plants. They're 2-to-1, full season plants, full sun, grown from seed. And we are in the process of harvesting. So it's a great pleasure to join everyone. I'm thrilled to be here, and good for you that you're doing Meadowlands, you know, because of it all and despite it all, 2020, here we are, we're all in it together. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Awesome, thanks for being here. Lindsey, do you want to jump in? Where are you? What's happening? What are you growing? Give us a little update. And I think you're still on mute.
I'm not on the farm today because I actually don't have any reception out there whatsoever, or Wi-Fi. So I'm down at my house in Benbow, but my farm is in southern eastern Humboldt, relatively close to Tina's. Well, we're also dealing with the forest fires right now. I think it's around both me and Tina's farms is actually almost 1 million acres. Right now, it's almost burnt 1 million acres. And so I was also evacuated a couple weeks ago. And yeah, we're just dealing with that. I mean, one of them's like 5 miles away, and it's a huge issue. And we are also harvesting. So it makes this year's harvest, you know, even more difficult than it usually is. But yeah, I'm Native American. I cultivate on land that was, you know, once inhabited by my Wailaki ancestors. And then also owned by my great-great-great-grandmother in about 1900. I've been cultivating for about 13 years, and I started native Humboldt farms. I've been cultivating on my own, choosing my own strains, my own, nutrient schedules and such for about 6 years now. I do also have manufacturing, and went into that, at the beginning of regulation, I have a very small farm. It's 5,000 square feet. So that's so small compared to some of the farms, in the regulated market right now. And so we moved into manufacturing, started manufacturing topicals. We're just about to release an edible, a rose chocolate. It's actually pink. It doesn't have any, color additives or flavors. It tastes like fresh berries and kind of like white chocolate. It's pretty cool. So we're just about to do that. After harvest, we'll be doing a line of pre-rolls, and then I do the topicals. So I have a relief balm, a topical for pain and things like that, eczema, psoriasis, everything like that. And then also like a youth serum, infused argan oil, and an Epsom salt bath soak. So that's kind of what we have going on right now.
Awesome. Why don't we pass the mic to Bert?
Well, hi, Aria and David and the rest of the panelists. Thanks for having me here. So RevGenomics is an Oakland-based biotech company. Here I am at our office. There's nothing behind me. It's just a gray wall. But let me see, what are we working on right now? Well, some of the interesting stuff that we've got going on in a pheno hunt is actually some stuff for the rec market. So a bunch of interesting crosses, really just looking for the best terp profiles, the highest potency. You had mentioned that our company does a lot of work with rare cannabinoids, and we do that, but we also, our company sort of evolved from working primarily with data, and then we got into the breeding game, working on rare cannabinoids, and then now we're kind of also, we've incorporated a lot of work with recreational strains. So that's some stuff that I'm super excited about, and we'll be coming out with that stuff in clone form, probably close to the end of the year. And then ultimately, we see ourselves moving almost totally into seeds once we can achieve good enough stability with these various varieties that we're working on. So moving from clones to seeds, that's kind of the future for us.
Hey guys, Chris here with Node. Node Labs is a TC lab like we talked about. We also do some breeding work. I think it's really interesting the juxtaposition we have with some clearly some farmers who come from a long tradition of living soil and outdoor kind of heirloom gardening techniques. And then Bert and I doing like some super high tech stuff. So that's pretty cool as well. But one thing I wanted to mention is we have a tissue culture laboratory with Node. One thing we do is cleaning and restoration services. And that is a really interesting service we do because there's a lot of people who have problems with their plants, including hop latent viroid is a big problem, or just pathogens, or you've just been cloning off that same mother for years and she's tired and she's not acting like she was acting before. So we're always proud to offer those services. And one thing we're especially proud of with this horrendous fire season is that we can bank those genetics and strains for our clients so that if they are affected by it, their brand isn't, because they can come back and have that strain back in hand is healthier than ever. So it's almost like insurance for them. So that's something that's really innovative and new in the cannabis scene. So I'm really excited about that. And thanks so much for having me on. And one more comment, we're just in my humble backyard bonsai tree collection. So I spend a lot of time back here unwinding. And when I'm done trimming cannabis plants, I just trim my bonsai trees. And then my roommates wonder why I'm always trimming plants. And I go, I don't know, that's what I do. So anyway, thanks for having me. I'll pass it on.
One thing that I'm really interested in hearing from everyone about, when we got back from evacuation, and incidentally, one of the most important things that I took with me when we left was seeds. And so I thought, as long as the people are safe, as long as the people survive and the land survives and the genetics survive, we're going to be okay. We can rebuild. And what I found when we returned, because, you know, it was really heart-wrenching to leave these plants. They're in the ground. And so they can't leave with you. You can't bring your work with you when your work is your plants, when your life is your plants, when your farm and your business is also your homestead in your home. And so when we returned, of course, I just wanted to be with the plants and see the plants and see how they fared. And I was totally shocked by how just kind of vital and thriving everything was. And immediately tested flower and everything came back fine, which was very exciting. And not only did it come back fine, I'm finding that there are really like enhanced terpene profiles and like the percentages. So these are immature at the time, a little bit immature flowers, right? So still a couple, some 3 weeks to go. And so the cannabinoid percentages weren't as high as they will be, but the terpene profiles in some cases were higher than they've tested before. And so I just wanted to throw that out there and share that with everyone. And I was really worried about the ash. I was really worried about the smoke, and it doesn't seem to be affecting these amazing resilient plants at all. And so that said, being able to, oh, and this is the other piece. The only damage that I did see, that I have seen so far, is on clones. So all of the seed plants are perfectly healthy, but some of the clone plants have burning pistils, you know, a little bit of damage from the smoke and possibly the diminished light and the quality of the light and the ash. But the seed plants are thriving. And so I'm excited to hear, Bertrand, that you're going into seeds and also tissue culture. This is, you know, relevant moving forward, right? And I was also wondering, Lindsey, what your experience is with this.
Yeah. First, before I answer, I just want to urge everyone to pick up whatever cannabis they have at home. It is 420. And so let's all light up, you know, in celebration of this incredible plant that Tina just talked about, this resilient and strong, you know, plant that we have all fought so hard for. I mean, watching the whole, you know, presentation today, it's been incredible because every single one of us has fought so hard for this plant and fought so hard to get to this point where we can all speak, you know, about our love for this plant, about the healing qualities of this plant, about the resilience of this plant, and light up together. And it's been a long time coming. So let's all, you know, take whatever cannabis we have right now and, you know, light up together in unity and support and gratitude of this incredible plant. And to answer your question, you know, I feel like my established plants definitely, I mean, we're not really seeing an issue with the clones, but if we did plant some plants a little later and they didn't seem as established as, you know, my full season seeds that are really going, they've been growing for a while now. They're super established. But with everything else, we are seeing a little bit of like yellowing of the leaves. And yeah, I mean, we're all trying to figure it out too right now, you know, what's going on, what we can do if we need to remediate the soil. We've heard, you know, I've been watching Wendy Kronberg, who is another female farmer in Humboldt County. She owns cannabis, and she's saying that we will need to remediate the soil. She's actually using Epsom salt and fish hydrosylate, even if your plants are already in flowering, and fish hydrosylate clearly is a nitrogen. And so you wouldn't think that you would have to do that. But it's all new, you know, so I don't really know. I am seeing yellowing of some plants that are smaller, planted later, just some late seed starts that we threw out. But I'm not really seeing that much of an effect on the full seasons that are, pretty established, ready to harvest, this week or in the next couple weeks. But it's so new, and I'd love to hear from, Bert and Chris, if you guys know anything about this. Like, what should we do? We don't know. We've never dealt with this. We haven't dealt with this yet. So.
Well, I could chime in about something as far as when you have wood ash falling from the sky, oftentimes the pH can be affected. If you have a fire or a volcano or something like that, you can experience acid rain, where the ash in the clouds precipitates with the rain and then comes down, and the pH is higher. Is lower because it's acidic. So I think that there could be pH issues. That said, it would depend on like the constituents of the ash. But I do think that you want to wash the foliage for sure. You don't want that to be like sitting on the foliage, on the leaves and on the flowers. And obviously, we've all come back to our areas after these ash events and kind of put your finger down and you go, oh crap, well, look at all this crap there. So whether that's kind of clogging the cuticle and the breathing of the plant, or if there's some sort of pH or caustic effect on the plant itself, that would be my guesses for these stress factors. Bert, what do you think?
Well, I was going to address what Tina was talking about concerning seed plants versus clones. And as someone who does a lot of popping of seeds and then cloning from those seed-based mothers, seed-based plants are just a lot better than clones. They have a better root system usually. Usually they test higher in terms of their potency. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit if the plants that you have from seed have been performing better than stuff from clones. That's definitely the case, and that's one of the reasons why we want to move toward clones. Obviously, move toward seeds. Now, obviously, the benefit of clones is that you get very great consistency, and from most seed batches from cannabis, you're not going to get a lot of consistency. But with enough breeding and using some specific tissue culture techniques, you can achieve consistency, and that's what we're really trying to move towards. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents on that. I guess I have a question for Chris. I think, tissue culture is a relatively new thing in the cannabis industry, and you guys have been doing a lot of really interesting things. So why don't you explain to us how you can use these tissue culture techniques that you guys are in possession of to clean up strains, to get rid of viruses, et cetera, et cetera.
Of course. Thanks for that layup there. One thing that I'm trying to battle as far as the conception of tissue culture is that it's some sort of panacea for if it's in a gel, the plant's like fixed, or it's better, or it's like more potent, or just grows better now. It's really just a set of tools. It's an innovative and interesting set of tools where you grow little tiny plants. One thing when you talk about the remediation or cleaning up of the plants is that the plant grows in gel, and the gel is completely clear. And because it's clear and has sugars in it, it becomes diagnostic in that fungi or bacteria will grow in it just as well as the plant will. So if your gel is covered in fungus, well, there's fungus growing on or inside your plant. One thing that's very interesting about this plant is that it can hold pathogens inside of its tissues. That can happen with our bodies, with chronic diseases in our bodies, such as heart disease, other pathogens that can be in our bodies and cause certain symptoms. So it's very difficult to get it done, but you need to have a very small, very small propagule, and then you can see if this thing is contaminated or not with your eyes. And so that's a really interesting way of doing it because the whole process is completely sterile. So if you are in fact sterile, the plant is completely clean, and you know that inside and out, it has no pathogens or fungi or bacteria growing in and on it. And then you can, once it's out of culture, inoculate it with your favorite rhizospheric bacteria and fungi that then have a symbiotic effect with the plant. It's not so much a symbiotic when it's inside the plant, but when it's on the roots and on the plant. So the other aspect of that, to wrap that up really quick, is is viruses and viroids, which can be really tough. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys have experienced any sort of hop latent viroid, but it can be devastating and it's extremely hard to detect. So plant tissue culture is absolutely a tool that needs to be used to get over some of these chronic issues such as hop latent.
Yeah, and I've even seen with a hop latent viroid, with other viruses or viroids, you can go through seed. So you can, seed out your mothers or whatever and get rid of viroids that way. But the hop latent viroid has an extremely high propagation, extremely high rate of passing on to the seeds themselves. You actually have to treat the seeds in a special way to get rid of it because it's sitting on the surface. So when those plants germinate, they pick up the virus. So you've got to be really careful with the hop latent viroid. And it's becoming a worse and worse problem. I mean, we have a diagnostic assay, PCR-based assay here in the lab where we test for it. And I've seen probably 80 to 90% of like every plant in the industry tests positive for hop latent viroid. Now, whether it actually expresses itself and affects the growth is one thing, but most plants actually have it.
So whether you're a indoor high-tech grower from TC or an outdoor, kind of heirloom farm, the more people and the more of your neighbors who are growing this, the more this becomes popularized and the more sharing of material, the more this is going to become a problem for us as a whole, as a community, in the same way that COVID-19 maybe is that if everyone is cross-pollinating, then if we went back to the days of everyone just growing in their closet, potentially this wouldn't be that big of a deal. Now that it's out and about, we're looking at, we really need these services and these type of pathogen remediations and detection to be at a high level to prevent people who had never wanted anything to do with clones or anything like that from it just kind of blowing in the wind or getting inherited from a seed pack or something like that.
I had a question, and a couple of people actually have it in the comments as well. And I'm hoping that Bert or Chris can answer it for us. So you mentioned washing off the foliage, and there is ash on our plants right now if we're growing outdoors in Humboldt County, Mendocino, Sonoma, most of California right now. So initially, we heard, okay, we'll blow it off with a leaf blower or, wash it off. We did try to wash a couple plants, and the ash actually really became like a slurried mixture. It really wasn't washing off. So we did get the leaf blower. We are trying to blow off everything. I know Tina, was doing the same thing. People were also saying that quite possibly we could be testing, the flower could actually come back testing with heavy metals and things like that. I talked to Sonoma Lab Works a couple days ago, and they said one of the issues may be the fire retardant. If it has, if CAL FIRE has dispersed any of that around your outdoor plants, that maybe they actually have arsenic in that, and that the plants could be testing for that. But I guess what I'm just wondering is can we mix it with, they were saying if you mix ash and water, it creates lye. And so, we're all in California growing cannabis outdoors, just wondering how do we get this off of our plants, and what is the best way,
Or you're taking this one, right?
Oh no, none of us know.
I had an idea when you were talking about washing the plants and the heavy metals that might be getting on your plant.
Right.
I mean, I don't know, other than perhaps using like a metal chelator, perhaps like EDTA, that could latch a hold of the metals, and then once you wash it off, it could remove them. But it's a tough one, man. These fires are devastating to everyone, especially the cannabis.
I don't want to add insult to injury, but I think that with the timing of this as well, if you have trichomes on the plant, which I'm assuming you do, because they're in flower, that's like little traps for all that stuff. So if you wash it, obviously it beads off the plant. So it's hydrophobic, beads off the plant. So you might need some sort of actual wash. I mean, I would recommend something like a very dilute, like Dr. Zyme's wash, something with a surfactant in it that may be able to get into those nooks and crannies. And so that would be like a basic IPM treatment that you could borrow from your local greenhouse grower or outdoor grower if you're used to that, or just look that up online. That's the really basic stuff. So I'm sure everyone has someone who's used a product like that, plant therapy or Dr. Zymes or something like that. But a surfactant containing like liquid and just pump and just drenching that thing, and then maybe washing it with regular water with the hose after that. That would probably be my recommendation, but maybe just do that on 1 or 2 plants before you do it on the farm. I don't know.
We did test flour once we got back, and it came back negative for everything, including heavy metals. And really, there's such minor ash, and it's just really on the surface of the flour. And most of us are pretty close to harvest, and so I wouldn't underestimate the power of this plant, folks. And it also really calls in, 2 days ago, SB 67 got voted through, and terroir-based appellation of origin. And this is huge, folks. I mean, this really speaks to heritage, and it is a nod to this plant being grown in the natural world, in the ground. And plants from seed have tap roots, and so they're tapping into the ground. And I think that this is deep, and this is a big part of what this plant has to offer, is a reflection of place and an essence of place. And so as I'm thinking about it, first I was really stressed out about smoke and ash, and I know that with blowing the plants off and shaking the plants and then perhaps rinsing some won't need it, but some will. But when people smoke this flower, they're going to smoke the truth. They're going to smoke the story of this year. It's a narrative. It's an 8-month epic. And that's what the flower is expressing. So I'm actually really excited to see how these test. And I'm not too worried about about heavy metals. It's all forest fire, or where we are anyway. No doubt there are some people who this is a concern for them. And the recommendation, I think, sounds really solid in that situation. But we're getting wood ash, and I'm really not too worried about it.
I really like that, smoking the truth. I think I'm going to try to smoke the truth more often. But I think we all need to smoke a little more truth.
Is that a strain name yet, or?
Oh, that's got to be one. Yeah, got to be one.
Strains. Tina.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
This panel is pretty interesting because we've got a couple of high-tech cannabis science people and a couple of organic growers that are down in the earth and stuff like that. So I won't name any names, but of course there have been some relatively high-profile instances, or at least one instance of relationships having gone sideways between cultivators and a cannabis science company, or some cannabis science companies. How do you guys, as legacy growers, organic growers, how do you think the best way would be to protect yourself, protect your data, your strains, your DNA sequences? I mean, all this stuff is coming, right? In a way that allows you to be able to work confidently and without fear with, companies like ours.
I think just, really quickly, I'll say, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. It's difficult. It's difficult as a small batch cultivator in Humboldt County. I've had some really great interactions with people in the industry. And if I'm honest, I've had some really bad ones as well. Even when it comes to the issue of distribution, I've worked with 2 distributors, and, I won't say more than that, but I ended up having to get distribution myself, so, it's difficult. And also for us, I think that it's difficult as well, because we are coming from the black market, the traditional market, and we are moving forward. We have businesses, we have companies, and that's great, manufacturing and distribution, and that's great. But there's not as much follow through from some of the people that I've dealt with in the industry as I would have liked to see. So I'm not sure how and I really haven't given it much thought, but I have heard the stories about, other cultivators losing their, genetics and everything like that. I'm not exactly sure, how we protect ourselves. But it's definitely something that I will think about in the future. You, Tina?
Yeah, I think that it's complex. One of the things that I'm obsessed with, and one of the reasons why I decided to go through this process, because this process has been incredibly humbling. But I'm obsessed with cultural preservation, and also feeling like there's a responsibility here and an opportunity to be able to share this plant with more people than ever before in history. And I think that humanity could benefit from a shift in consciousness and access to this plant. And once again, like, this plant intelligence is really incredible. And so anyone who thinks that they can control this plant, I think is going to have it's going to be surprised, because the epigenetics that expressed through this plant are incredible. Once again, terroir-based appellation of origin. I think it's incredible progress. And so I think that it comes down to reading the fine print. It comes down to finding attorneys who have integrity, and there are a few out there. And it comes down to building a team of people who you feel actually do have your back, which is perhaps the hardest part, and especially for people who have been on the Hill for many years. And I've learned some lessons already. More than anything else, folks, I think that a diverse culture is a healthy culture. And for that reason, I think it's really important to get multiple opinions. I think it's important to do trials before really digging in. And I think it's important to diversify. And along the lines of distribution, for instance, like, we're diversifying, and not only diversifying, but have our own little farm brand now. And I'm very proud of this. Many years coming, and really putting a lot of energy into that right now, because that, I think, is the truest representation of what we're doing. Finding protection around that has been a challenge. I'm grateful to have a fantastic trademark attorney. But what is the equivalent when it comes to genetics? And maybe you guys could answer that question. How do cultivators protect themselves? What would you say?
Well, I'd love to chime into this as well. And obviously, just to, and I'll address that question specifically in a second. But, throughout history, we've seen that science can push things in a direction of incredible prosperity, or it can push us somewhere kind of weird or dark. And I think the more we do things like sequencing or patenting of genes and stuff like that, it could be the small cultivator's best friend, or it could be their greatest enemy, depending on what we want to do here. And I think it's incumbent on people in the high tech side of cannabis to think, are you pushing this industry closer towards conglomeration, big business nightmare? Or or is this inevitable legalization and rollout going to look more like craft beer? I hope it's like craft beer, where there's a ton of producers, and you can always have a different experience every day if you want. As a cultivator and a scientist, recreating, Tina, what you've done there with the story of those plants is impossible. The cannabis you're producing is incredibly unique, and it will never ever happen again. So it's very special. So I think that's something, as someone who is trying to control the plant in a lot of ways, you got to have some respect that you're never ever gonna get that. So yeah, that's my 2 cents in that. Tina, could you circle back to your original question, because I forgot where we were even going there, because 420.
Yeah, and and you're touching upon it, I think, and that is, how do cultivators protect themselves? How do small farmers protect themselves? How do people who have been working on genetics for, generations protect those genetics, and therefore also, protecting their farm and their family and their family business? And
Yeah, I guess I have some thoughts on that. Unfortunately, while cannabis is federally illegal, as long as it's a Schedule I drug, there are always going to be issues with protection. I mean, it's even difficult to take legal action against somebody in the cannabis industry if they screw you over. But I would say that you should, if you're going to have collaborations with people where you're sharing your genetics that are your pride, that are basically the basis of your farm, you should have pretty strong business contracts in place. And then to echo something that Chris said, I do think that in the future, once there's some sort of federal movement on cannabis, removing it from Schedule I, hopefully descheduling it completely. Patents become an opportunity. Plant variety patents, plant patents, and utility patents will become available for cultivators. But though to get a patent is incredibly expensive. It's on average about $25,000 per patent in the U.S., and that's just if you're going to protect yourself, in the United States. So, the patenting route is not without its flaws. But yeah, I think once there's federal movement, you will be able to have really strong business contracts that can be enforced.
Yeah, circling back to what Tina said, about the plant just being so powerful and really, I feel like at the beginning of legalization, and I'm like Tina, and we're small and we're boutique, and it was a way of life. It wasn't, a business, and we were going into this industry, and I saw the way things were going. I was competing with companies that were huge, took huge amounts of funding. I was even approached by acreage holdings, we decided not to, and the whole time I'm questioning, what does she want? Like, what does the plant want? Like, where is this supposed to go? Where is this headed? Is it national legalization? Is it going to be like craft beer? Are me and Tina still going to have a spot in this? Where does she want to take this? And it's a difficult question, and I'm not sure. I actually don't know the answer to it. I know that cannabis certainly needs to be, available to the masses and to as many people as possible. But I think at the end of the day, how we protect ourselves is by caring for the plant. By being caretakers of this plant. See, I think that Tina and I are where we are in the industry right now because we are caretakers of the plant, because we absolutely believe in the healing powers of her and what she can do. And, I'm a vessel in which, I'm just here to kind of do whatever she needs me to do. And that's why we are here. And it's been a very difficult road, but I so feel you, Tina, when you are telling everyone to just have faith in the plan of this plant. And I think what's so incredible about cannabis in general is that, we not only are we caretakers of the plant, but so many people around the world are caretakers of this plant. We baby this plant. We feed this plant. We nurture this plant. We play music for this plant that doesn't have a voice and doesn't have legs. And we people put it in a closet with lights, and we keep the genetics going, and we breed it, and we treat it so well. And I think that, yeah, she really has a voice. We can't hear it, but she has a plan. And, I'm a little bit concerned about the future, and this is a very diverse panel, and you do have me and Tina, and you do have you guys, and and I'm glad that we're here together, and I'm glad that we're working together. And I definitely do think that we have the same goal. It worries me that quite possibly not everyone does, but I think at the end of the day, when Tina said trust the plant, I think as small cultivators in Humboldt County, the Emerald Triangle, that's what we'll do. We are still here. We are still here, but it's difficult.
Yeah, what Chris said about the comparisons to craft beer, I think are really, really good. I think it's going to be like beer, where you're going to have big giant companies like Anheuser-Busch that make a ton of money, but they make a very inexpensive, mediocre product. But there's always going to be that space for really high quality craft cannabis that's being made by folks like you. I think the comparison to the alcohol industry in that way is a good one.
Can I expand on that comparison to the alcohol industry really quick and talk about a huge pet peeve I have with cannabis at large right now? If I went to a bar and said, "Give me your strongest drink," I would get the biggest eye roll in the world from a bartender. Why is cannabis so potent? Why are we chasing 35, 40, 50, 99% THC for stuff? I prefer 15 to 17% THC. And my joint right here is what I colloquially call Bud Light, where you can still like function when you smoke it and be on a panel with people and not be having an anxiety attack or anything like that. Raise your hand here if you think that, as people who have a lot of cannabis access, do you smoke the most potent stuff, or are you there? What's your day to day?
I mean, I personally don't smoke the most potent stuff. I kind of prefer stuff that's maybe, that hovers around the 20% range. And to me, yeah, it's about the terps. It's about the terps. It's about, I'm kind of into the whole, the experience of having a flower and breaking it up and stuff like that. I mean, for me, I have a vape pen today because I'm inside the office, but that's not my favorite way of using cannabis. But yeah, I agree with you. The end consumer has been trained to think that high quality cannabis has to have a lot of THC in it. And a lot of THC is necessary for certain medical needs, but you can get really, really, really high quality cannabis that's got high levels of terpenes at much lower THC contents.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of mixed ratio myself. Like, I love CBD THC mixed ratio, and I think that the time is coming, and the market will mature. And I appreciate you bringing that up, Chris, because it is about the cannabinoids. It's about the minor cannabinoids. It's about all of the terpenes. It's about the full spectrum. It's about the diversity, and it's about the subtleties. And the subtleties, this is one of the things that cannabis is going to teach us. It's like, we are going to open up to the subtleties. We're going to open up to our senses. We're going to open up as our consciousness opens, hopefully, and become more sensitive human beings and more intimate human beings, connected to our senses and our awareness and ability to observe ourselves and others. This is kind of the difference between alcohol and cannabis. Cannabis being closer to the psychedelic family, I would argue, and plant medicine and ancient ways. And so, I think that right now it's just an incredibly immature an immature market. And as we see it mature, we'll see more possibility and more, and we'll see a lot more offered, a spectrum offered, which is going to be beautiful.
Oh, go ahead.
So most of the strains that we're growing right now do test over 20%. So Ghost Train Haze, the Ice Cream Cake, the Meadow Breath, we have Birthday Cake, and they are all, probably over 22% even. But personally, I prefer the ratios. Like Tina, Pineapple Tonic is my favorite. It does have a few of the other cannabinoids in it. I think I'm actually like a super lightweight. Like, I actually mix my cannabis with rose petals because I'm like, even Pineapple Tonic, like, I just am super lightweight. I actually make a tincture, and what I love about tinctures as well is that you can microdose. You could be at a 3 or a 7 or a 6.5 or something like that. So I love that idea. And I think that I think the thing that the consumer needs to know is that it's not always about just, getting the highest THC content and getting so high, let's see what 6.8 milligrams does, or, the Pineapple Tonic or something like that. And just having these other experiences induced with cannabinoids. And then, speaking of cannabinoids, so the Pineapple Tonic, and I think we have Jagu, and that tests with, I think, CBG. which is incredible. We actually put it in a tincture as well. And we just take whole flower and cook it down in manufacturing in sunflower oil for 24 hours, strain it, and that's the tincture. But it does have CBG. And then my question about the other cannabinoids also, and I know we're kind of running out of time, but is there regulation on the other cannabinoids? Because I know initially with THCA, there was no, I had like a CDPH inspection, and we were asking about THCA because at some points in time, you know, like the rosin of the flower actually isn't THC. And they said at that point, there was no regulation regarding the other cannabinoids. So is there any regulation for that? And just, I'd love to hear about cannabinoids for a second.
I'm not a regulatory expert, so I would defer to Chris.
I'm not either. I don't know the answer. Vic, Bertrand, I was hoping you'd know the answer to that. I think THC is the main subject as far as legalization of a clone or a plant material. It's all about that classification between hemp and cannabis and the regular cannabis. So I'm not sure, honestly, though.
Well, I think it actually depends on what lawyer you ask. And I've asked these types of questions to multiple lawyers, and it depends on if the lawyer is more conservative or not. A conservative lawyer will say, take the law at its letters and say that anything that is derived from the marijuana plant is legal. I had a lawyer tell me that if you had water, if you purified water from the marijuana plant and it was just 100% H2O, that would still be illegal. But other lawyers will say there could be, some gray area in there. So again, I think it comes back to lawyers.
Going back to the whole potency thing really quick, I wanted to echo you guys that I love the mixed potency, like 1-to-1 CBD THC. Absolutely love that. But I think that one thing for cultivators that's extremely frustrating is that gulf in price. Is it below 20% or is it above 20%? That seems like the magic number. And I'm scratching my head being like, you have Tina's fine wine terroir cannabis once in a lifetime batch here. Oh, it's 19%. Nah. And it's like, what is that? We need to be able to like tell the consumer what you should be smoking and why. We all know this better than anybody. How come the typical consumer who are they listening to, and why is this arbitrary rule in place? I think we need to abolish it.
Well, and doesn't it also have to do with the emphasis on indoor, like during Prohibition, when everyone went inside and really the laboratory study, the deep study started inside as opposed to outside, and like pulling apart the cannabinoids and breeding for high THC, right? And so when you talk to old timers and original homesteaders, they're like, oh yeah, like the older landrace strains and what they used to grow and still grow, a lot of folks, and what a lot of people still do in the hills, it's not over 20%, And so it is, this is one of the reasons why we started a reserve, is because it is a fantastic platform for education. So we put out a type 1, a type 2, and a type 3 this year. And not surprisingly, the pre-rolls in the type 3 were the first to sell out. And because people just can't find high CBD right now in dispensaries. And so I was thrilled by this, and that's how we're able to get the type 2 mixed ratio to market. And moving forward, we're going to have the full spectrum. We're cultivating some genetics from BioVortex, if anyone knows who Jesse Dodd and BioVortex are. And some of those may test high 20s into perhaps into the low 30s. And some of them are going to be 15%. And so we're doing the full spectrum and finding our audience, like who like different people have different needs. And we'd like to be able to reach a spectrum of folks, So I think that it's, there's some experimentation right now, and there's a lot of learning. And so it's a really good time, I think, to explore.
I wanted to do a plug if we're talking about some of the higher CBD ones as well, which is Compound Genetics 2 to 3 strain called Essential Oil, with up to over 2% terpene on that. So that's a really awesome one. If you can find it, get it.
And Lindsey, we're doing a couple of mixed ratios. We're doing sapphire suets, a 2-to-1, and also serpentine, another 2-to-1. And by the way, folks, I'm still sitting on a bunch of 2-to-1 shake from 2019.
Oh, I got you.
Good.
I'll take it.
There you go.
Somewhere for it. Yeah, no, for sure. And then, yeah, we're doing a pineapple tonic. And then we actually did a Swiss Sue. And we did depth covers, no artificial light. And I really didn't expect it to produce as it did. And it really produced. Way more than anything else. So I actually have a lot of, it's a 20-to-1 Swiss Sue. So I actually have a lot of 20-to-1 Swiss Sue flour as well that I'm going to be trying to move, or maybe just do pre-rolls with it or something. But yeah, I love the mixed ratios, you know, and then I think the CBD in general, you know, there is a market for that there. There really is, and it may be smaller than the THC market. But I think it's important to also cater to those people as well. Like, you know, the new user that comes in to the retail and they don't, you know, and they're a little bit nervous and they've never bought cannabis before, but they've heard of CBD and it is nationally legal now, you know, but they're in the retail for the first time and they, you know, yeah, they're a little nervous and they want to try something. So we might actually do just a 20-to-1 CBD pre-roll as well. But I think there's, you know, there's a lot of people and I just want everyone to feel comfortable. Not everyone has, you know, been in cannabis as long as we have. Not everyone is as comfortable as we are, you know? And so I think also kind of, you know, catering to that new user that may be a little bit intimidated by THC is probably important too right now.
I can't tell you the number of people who have said that I quit smoking weed because I just get so much anxiety. And then I say, hey, try this. And you give them a mixed one. And then they're just like, this is amazing. And then they never go back. I think there's a huge market for that. It's unfulfilled for sure.
It's the same thing with edibles too, I think, and just cannabinoids in general. And you get a lot of people that are like, I ate an edible once and it was just too much. I'll never do it again. It was an awful experience. And, you know, and I try to tell them, okay, well, take this tincture and start out very small, 2.5 milligrams, and then, you know, 3.5, 4.5, find what spot you're comfortable. And when you get paranoid, that probably means that you took too much, and everybody's body's different and how we digest is different. And, you know, all of this stuff. So it's like, I kind of tell people you need to just find what works for you. Don't be completely turned off by the whole idea, you know, of THC in general. Just find, you know, what's going to make you, give you the desired effect that you're looking for, you know. I do really quick want to ask Tina, because I love Tina. I love Moon Made Farms. I'm so proud of her. I'm so proud of just small cultivators in general, the Emerald Triangle. There are so many people up here that have stories like Tina, that have passion like Tina, that you can't replicate. You know, no amount of money is going to replicate that. And I just want to ask Tina, why are you passionate about cannabis?
Lindsey, thank you so much. That's beautiful. You're beautiful. And you're one of my heroes. Okay, this is why I'm passionate about cannabis, is because it completely changed my life and it's my teacher. And so what I learned from cannabis 14 years ago when I started cultivating, and this plant brought me into the realization that I'm living on a living planet. I just didn't get it before. I truly didn't, until I started taking care of this plant. And I think that this is a huge piece, and it's something I think about a lot, which is profit versus service. And so I don't understand and it's perhaps the most confusing thing to me, or the thing that is most daunting to me about moving forward in this new world, is I think that there are a lot of folks coming in, or who have been in, but a lot of folks coming in who are profit driven. And I think to be service driven over being profit driven is what it's about. And I think that this plant provides, and it will take care of people if they truly are in their heart and in their intention service driven. But people who come in purely profit driven, I think are going to have a hell of a time. And so I think that the reason why I'm passionate about this plant is because she is my teacher. And I think that she is an example of not only truth, but an example of will help bring humanity into balance and help us heal and teach us, be our guide in how to evolve as a species. As the highly conflicted, complex, confusing species that we are, I think cannabis can help. Thank you, Lindsey, so much. And you, why are you passionate about this plant?
You know, really clearly the same reasons. And, you know, it's hard to explain. And so I try to tell people that I feel like at some point in their lives, they need to grow a cannabis plant from start to finish, care for it, be a caretaker of the plant, and experience I'm literally going to cry, the energy that you get from it. I've had it as a teacher, absolutely. And I've went through so many times in my life where I needed something. And, you know, you go through the season and you're with these plants and they give you exactly what you need. They reciprocate energy. It's the only thing on this planet that the energy you put into it and the love that you put into it, you get back. And that's a great feeling because it's hard on this earth as humans. And yeah, it's such a great teacher and it has such a healing energy and literally is, yeah, like Tina said, just the absolute teacher with the absolute most pure intentions. And that's why I'm passionate about cannabis.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Bert, Chris, do you guys have any last words?
I would actually like to give a shout out to someone who's involved in Compassion Cannabis. Somebody who is close to me who runs a company called Dear Cannabis, which is an open source compassion network. Her name is Melissa Bergstaller. And their company just dropped 2,800 grams of free RSO to various organizations like Weed for Warriors. And yeah, just wanted to give a shout out to her. Again, it's Dear Cannabis, and her name is Melissa Bergstaller.
I just wanted to say thanks for having me on, and a really cool conversation, and great to virtually hang out with all you guys and smoke up with all you guys, and yeah, thank you so much.